All right. So when I was a baby, my mom read to me all the time. Snow White, The Three Little Pigs, Robert Munch. She would read to me in both Tamil and English, and she likes to credit all of that with, I don't know, every single one of my accomplishments. She's probably gonna do it after tonight. But there is truth in that, in her philosophy, that reading to your kids, and going even further, that storytelling is something valuable, something integral to our development as people. I know now that growing up, my mom never really had books in the house. A lot of kids in her village didn't. But storytelling isn't always a big book of fairy tales at bedtime. It can be songs, religious sermons, plays. My mom is 45 years old, and she can still tell me about the first play that she ever watched, at a time when she was even younger than I am now. She details sitting on the church floor watching the story of Snow White in her blue dress unfold. My mom never had books in the house, but she still experienced storytelling. And 30 years later, she read those same stories to me. As we delve deeper and deeper into storytelling as a craft, we're beginning to see that it links together different cultures and even different worlds by way of neurology, societal mannerisms, and communication methods. So, quick story time. A few years ago, I heard my first real campfire story. I want to say 12, so I was 12, and I was sitting on this really cold, itchy log, and it was actually a school trip. So my log was very crowded. There were a few other equally crowded logs, and some kids had to stand up because they didn't get to the logs on time. And the point is that we were all situated around this fire. Ladies and gentlemen, it is important for me that you know that at the time that the story took place, it was approximately 8 p.m. at a campsite 2 hours up north in November. It was cold. And unfortunately, the fire was not large enough or warm enough to comfort 200 grumpy, cold grade 7s. I will let you use your imagination to picture the atmosphere that night. But then all of a sudden, this tall, blonde camp counselor walks into the middle of the circle, and he starts spinning the story about a tortured businessman who drove through the woods and felt himself pulled to a house at the side of the road. And the businessman walked up to the house, walked right up to the door, knelt down, put his eye up to the keyhole, and all he saw was a red light. And I was mesmerized. See, all of a sudden, the coldness of the air or the itchiness of the log didn't matter. All that mattered was that I heard the end of the story. And judging by the sudden stop of my classmates grumbling, I can say the same for them. And as the counselor began to approach the climax of the story, he tossed something into the fire, and it shot up in a shower of sparks, just as he revealed that the businessman had not been looking at a red light, he had been looking at an eye. And we all jumped back and screamed, and it was exhilarating. So it turns out that campfire stories like that one, are something of a callback to the way that storytelling once was. In ancient Greece, storytelling was much more of a spoken word kind of deal because the vast majority of people could not read. Greek emperors would hire master storytellers to perform the stories of their heroes, Odysseus, Heracles, Achilles. These master storytellers would bring together all different kinds of mediums, stage presence, dialogue, musical instruments, props, and they would create something that captivated audiences for centuries. To them, storytelling was about pulling in your audience and shocking them. Sound familiar? Nowadays, of course, we have our campfire stories, but the landscape of storytelling has changed somewhat due to two very important things. Number one, an increase in global literacy. And number two, technology. See, 84% of people worldwide are now literate, which means that storytelling has evolved into something much more visual-based. Think advertisements, books, movies. These are all stories that you predominantly take in with your eyes. However, much like the emperors of ancient Greece, we still pay to experience storytelling in all its forms, be it a rock concert or a comedy special. Auditory storytelling does remain an important part of our culture, and I like to think it's because we remember a time when it was all we had. As the future evolves, so will storytelling. Remember, storytelling is an intrinsically human craft, and so it changes alongside us in order to service us best. As we move forward into this age of technology, the world's attraction to connections and being connected will actually begin to influence corporate public relations. Companies will be forced to maintain better connections with the public in order to better promote their brand and stay relevant. In short, creativity will become recognized as a marketable business trait. This is already happening. Nike senior executives are referred to as corporate storytellers. Certain business schools are adding storytelling courses to their curriculums. This trend of placing an increased importance on storytelling will lead to an influx of movements like Bell Let's Talk, movements that are centered around speaking out about current issues and sharing personal stories. When we look at the past, present, and future of storytelling, we see that it has always been able to effectively change alongside human society. What's holding us back is this mindset of dismissing it as something childish or limited. Modern-day society demands a new, more innovative approach to storytelling, and I believe that it's up to the task. So let's talk psychology. Like most things, storytelling does have an impact on your brain, regardless of whether you're the storyteller or the listener. Take a few moments and think about your favorite books or your favorite movies. Now, if you've ever rooted for a character to overcome an obstacle of some sort, or left the movie theater after a superhero film and thought, maybe I should work out more, that is your oxytocin neurotransmitters doing their job as a reaction to storytelling. Oxytocin is a hormone that is produced in our brain, and it increases the feeling of relatability. It makes us feel like we know each other, understand each other. It creates and strengthens connections. While the oxytocin-based benefits of storytelling are already being unconsciously used in society, I believe that we need to increase our focus in storytelling in academic spheres, child development, and mental health-related situations. First off, child development. Reading to your kid often, or constantly, like my mom did with me, strengthens connections. Your child is hearing you tell a story, and their oxytocin neurotransmitters are firing. Like most arts, storytelling teaches us how to be human by exposing us to a wide array of experiences and emotions. It teaches kindness. It teaches empathy. It makes us better people. Academically, storytelling can be a huge factor towards cultivating positive student-to-student and student-to-faculty relationships. My best teachers have all started and continued the year by just taking a few minutes and talking about themselves, about their lives. As a student, I'm not particularly a math person. I never really understood it, and so I never really tried at it. Can anyone else relate to that? Okay, yeah, a few of you. I'm not alone, great. So here's me walking into grade 9 math with a chip on my shoulder because I think I'm somehow inferior at something I've never really studied or even truly attempted. I've made up my mind that this class is going to be the worst part of my entire semester. It ended up being one of the best parts. And a lot of that hinges around the fact that my math teacher told us her story. She established herself as a person that chose this job because she wanted to help spread a love of math, because she believed that it was something worth loving. I went from a C to an A in that class, and I'm legitimately excited to take it again next year. The connections formed by storytelling matter. They push unmotivated students to actually try and learn and improve. In mental health-related situations, like private or group therapy, or even just friendly discussion, storytelling is much more conversational. We tend to speak about our lives, our struggles, the ways in which we feel that we are not enough. Sometimes we'll speak about our goals, the areas in which we feel we are improving. In situations like these, the relatability caused by storytelling is integral as it gives people the opportunity to identify with one another. As a society, I believe that we need to put in the work to create more spaces where storytelling is used to build up one another and our mental health. Storytelling is something that expands way beyond the scope of what can be considered entertainment. There's a medical, economic, and sociological value to it. We need to start thinking about storytelling as something that benefits the mind, that benefits the social spirit, that benefits students academically. When we look at the big picture, we see a future where storytelling is used as an innovative tool, like companies Bell and Nike are already doing. My mom likes to say that the countless hours she spent reading to me are the reason I am the way I am, and I might actually have to start agreeing with her. But it's more than simply reading. The bedtime stories and fairy tales create empathy and strong connections and critical thinking. And that's exactly what this world of ours needs. It needs more stories because it is through stories that we connect with each other, through stories that we take the first few steps to truly understand with each other. Think of storytelling's impact on your life. Where would you be without that book that changed your worldview? Where would you be without that song that hits you right in the heartstrings? Without that comedian that your entire family can laugh at? Storytelling joins us all together because it's a part of who we are. If you play a musical instrument, bad news, you're a storyteller. If you've ever even used slang to express yourself better, you're a storyteller. To ridicule storytelling and to dismiss it is to go against our nature as people, because we are people first, and people, it seems, are built to be storytellers. Thank you.